stalled.
On October 7, 2008, at 9:32 a.m. local time, Qantas flight QF72, an Airbus A330-303, departed from Changi Airport, bound for Perth, Australia. The aircraft carried a total of 315 individuals, including passengers and crew members. Among the crew were 3 experienced pilots and 9 dedicated cabin crew members, whose primary focus was ensuring the safety of the 303 passengers on board. At the helm of the flight was Captain Kevin Sullivan, a 53-year-old male with a distinguished background in aviation. A former U.S. Navy pilot, Captain Sullivan had moved to Australia and had accumulated an impressive 13,592 hours of flying experience. Notably, he had spent a significant amount of time flying the Airbus A330, with a total of 2,453 hours logged in this particular aircraft. First Officer Peter Lipset was also a seasoned pilot, boasting an impressive 11,650 hours of flying experience. Of those hours, an impressive 1,870 were spent piloting the Airbus A330. His extensive experience made him a valuable member of the flight crew. Rounding out the cockpit trio was Second Officer Ross Hales, who had logged a total of 2,070 hours in the air. Of these hours, 480 were specifically logged on the Airbus A330. With this combined experience and expertise, Captain Sullivan's team was well equipped to navigate the challenges of flight and ensure a safe and comfortable journey for all on board. The uneventful flight of Qantas flight QF72 continued until 12:40 p.m. Western Standard Time, when the aircraft reached its cruising altitude of 37,000 feet. However, a sudden and unexpected anomaly occurred, causing the autopilot system to disengage on its own. This was due to anomalous data being provided to the aircraft computer by the Air Data Inertial Reference Units, ADIRUs. Captain Kevin Sullivan immediately took manual control of the aircraft, while the pilots also received a series of warnings on the Electronic Aircraft Centralized Monitor (ECM) display. Additionally, the pilots were alerted to oral stall and overspeed warnings, which they promptly acknowledged. The pilots then canceled the autopilot warnings on the ECM and subsequently engaged Autopilot 2, only to have it disengage once again 15 seconds later. As the pilots struggled to regain control of the aircraft, they noticed that the captain's primary flight display was showing erratic airspeed and altitude fluctuations. However, the first officer's primary flight display did not display these fluctuations. This discrepancy added to the sense of confusion and urgency among the crew. At 12:42 p.m., the aircraft suddenly pitched nose down, causing all passengers and crew not wearing seatbelts to be thrown towards the ceiling of the aircraft. Captain Sullivan was able to quickly regain control of the aircraft, but not before it lost 690 feet in altitude. The aircraft was then returned to its cruising altitude of 37,000 feet. The pilots continued to wrestle with the malfunctioning autopilot system as they dealt with the persistent messages on the ECM display. At 12:45 p.m., the aircraft experienced another uncommanded pitch-down movement, resulting in a loss of 400 feet in altitude. The crew was able to regain control of the aircraft once again and return it to its cruising altitude. The first officer who was resting was called back to the cockpit and took the seat that was occupied by the second officer Hales. The second officer then took the third occupant's seat. At this point, the aircraft was approximately 154 kilometers west of Learmonth, Australia, and the crew was still struggling to comprehend the root cause of the malfunctioning autopilot system. At 12:49, the crew broadcasted a pan-pan call to alert air traffic control of the uncommanded aircraft movements, which they feared could resume at any moment. They informed the controller that they were experiencing a flight control computer issue and had injured passengers on board. The controller responded by clearing the aircraft for flight level 350, which is 35,000 feet. The captain then made an announcement to the cabin, informing the passengers of the situation and its urgency. The cabin crew reported that there were several serious injuries, prompting the captain to request the first officer to declare a mayday. The controller was also updated on the multiple injuries on board. Throughout the subsequent communication with air traffic control, the crew worked closely with the controllers to ensure a safe and timely landing. After clearing the necessary procedures, the aircraft was cleared for visual approach to runway 36 at Learmonth, where it finally landed at 13:32 local time. The incident resulted in a significant number of injuries, with one cabin attendant and 11 other passengers sustaining serious injuries. The remaining passengers, however, were fortunate to have only suffered minor or no injuries at all. A thorough investigation into the incident revealed that one of the three Air Data Inertial Reference Units, ADIRU, was providing false data to the captain's side primary flight display. Specifically, the ADIRU on the captain's side was incorrectly reporting a very high angle of attack for the aircraft. This false data led to the flight control computers commanding a pitch-down movement to arrest what had appeared to be a severe pitch-up. This uncommanded movement caused the aircraft to drop sharply, resulting in the injuries sustained by the passengers and crew. The Central Processing Unit, CPU, of the Air Data Inertial Reference Unit, ADIRU, malfunctioned, causing it to corrupt the data on the angle of attack. As a result, the altitude of the aircraft at the time of the incident was incorrectly reported as an angle of attack of 50.625 degrees, which is 27.625 degrees above the threshold. The oral warnings also triggered due to the flight warning system, which monitored the angle of attack from the ADIRU. When the system detected that the angle of attack had exceeded the threshold, it alerted the crew to a potential pitch-up condition. Following the incident, Airbus issued a procedure to address this issue if it were to occur again in the future. Later that year, in December, another Qantas Airbus A330 aircraft encountered the same problem while en route from Perth to Singapore. However, the crew successfully dealt with the issue by following the revised procedure issued by Airbus, and they were able to return to their departure airport without any further complications. Subscribe to the channel, leave comments and likes if you enjoyed the video. Until next time.